We got angels singing around here. People getting happy. Oh, yes. Thank you, everybody, for coming through tonight. We appreciate it. Whether it's a large crowd or it's a little tiny crowd. Hot dog. We're going to have some fun tonight. Thank you for joining Coach K Radio. And tonight we're going to be talking about Alita, the Battle Angel, artificial intelligence, and organic singularity. What I really like about doing the show after 8 years is the intelligence of the audience. We had already had a discussion about the next couple of episodes that we were going to have with Baba Kilindi Iyi, but a listener catching the replay in Philadelphia said, hey, man, I want to hear more about this organic singularity. And I was like, yeah, me too. And I think I had asked him, had he seen Alita, because Kilindi last week had mentioned Alita and the Battle Angel. And I had also heard Dr. Mitchell Gibson talk about Alita, the Battle Angel. And we've also been talking about consciousness and moving consciousness from one body to another. And I wanted to get definitely some more information on this one. If you go to YouTube, there's a video called Kilindi Iyi on high dose psilocybin, the singularity, sorcery, and delusion. And I think it's Change Truth. Yeah, Change Truth from 2015. And, yeah, I had to even go back to that because I wanted to hear, like, some more specifics. I typed in organic singularity, and I couldn't find anything except with Kilindi. I heard someone talking about artificial intelligence singularity, and I heard technological singularity, but organic singularity. I said, hey, man, I want to know about that. So tonight we're going to see if we can push the envelope a little bit and get in on it. If you want to come in early, we're at episode 9. If you've been listening to the shows thus far and have been taking something from these episodes, I call it the Magic Mushroom series, press 1 right now. I want to just take a little quick roll call and see if anybody, one of the people who's on early, just what are some of your feedback that after 8 shows or about to be 9 episodes, what are some of the realizations that you've had? Just press 1, and we're going to bring you on the line. But before I even do that, of course, I got to go get my brother from another mother. Same mind, same kind. Y'all put your hands together for my man, Fire Water. Woo-wee.
Oh, the angels. I get the angels. That's what's up.
Of course.
Man, I'm in here trying to warm up. I've been outside practicing. Now I got to warm up with this fire conversation. This fire conversation about to warm me up, though.
Yeah.
Hey, I've been looking into the plank level today, so I think I'm in tune with where we're about to go with, or maybe not. I don't know, but that's what I've been looking at all day is the Planck level, trying to understand what happens when the third dimension comes unraveled after you go down so far.
I think that word. I was trying to save it for Kilindi. I ain't gonna put my prediction out here yet. I'm gonna wait for him to get on here and press 1, 2, and jump on into the convo. But I got a couple of other people got their hands raised about how they've been feeling after 8 episodes. So we're going to open the lines and take them first tonight versus at the end. I mean, we're still going to do Q&A, but I just want to hear, like, what kind of effect has it been taking on people, after 8 episodes? What's your take? You've been riding shotgun with me the whole time. What do you think? Have you noticed any difference in yourself and the way that you carry yourself, or has this, man, I don't want to call it information because it's more than that. This wisdom, because it's applied knowledge. How do you think that this wisdom that we've been getting over the 8 weeks has affected you in your life, in your day-to-day?
It's amazing. You know, it feels like the bat signal, like on Batman, how they put the bat signal up in the air. It feels like the bat signal has been placed in the sky over the last 8 weeks, and for all those who are in tune or on the one, this was like a wake-up call. You know, your notebook should be full, your pen should be worn down, we should be. That's how it's affected me anyway. It's almost like I'm ready to hit the field now. Put me in the game, coach. That's how I feel. I'm loaded up. It's really rare that you've done this, to have this amount of information available to the people, to the family every week like this is just, it's groundbreaking. I'm really appreciative of you and Baba Kilindi for making this happen like this, for real.
Oh, we're getting ready to get it in. And we on a new moon, and Mercury went retrograde in Pisces with the new moon in Pisces, and we're talking about artificial intelligence, and Pisces is the illusion. Pisces is like the deepest illusion. Pisces is dreams. Pisces is romance. You know what I'm saying? But Pisces is also well-written scripts. So for us to be doing Alita the Battle Angel tonight and artificial intelligence on a Mercury retrograde, like for me, I wanted to talk about it all day. I've just been busy, but Pisces, a Mercury retrograde in Pisces is either dreams are going to come true or answers about your dreams are about to come right up into your face. You know, so some reality can come up that you can pay attention to. And it's funny because Alita dropped on Valentine's Day, which to me is the most delusional and illusional and fantasy-filled romance Pisces day that you can have, even though they, violating, sitting up in the Aquarius sign. But the retrograde had already started like 5 days before that. So I think it's no coincidence. None of this is no coincidence how they laying their dates down for release dates. And, well, the whole thing about a cyborg having a relationship with a human, and Kilindi was talking about that 3 weeks ago before he saw the movie. But, that was on the Tantra. That was on the Tantra episode. But we're going to get back into that. I got a caller from 360-622. Your microphone is wide open. Thanks for calling in, Coach K Radio. Can I get your name and where you're calling from, please?
Yeah, it's Julian from Bellingham, Pacific Northwest.
How you doing? What's going on, Julian?
Pretty good. A little behind on Alita. I just started watching it today, about halfway through, but I'm excited.
That's what's up, man. We're just looking for a little feedback on the family who have been listening to the shows and what type of effect has it had on you, or what wisdom have you been able to garner from it and apply it to your daily life in these 8 episodes that we've had so far with Baba Kilindi?
Yeah, the main thing is just getting the confidence up to talk about these things, You go out with your buddies. I'm not trying to hear about the sports game. I'm not trying to hear about Trump. I'm trying to hear about mushrooms and what people think about this experience. So just getting that dialogue open and spreading the word.
That's what's up, man. For real. Now that's trill right there. And I was just going to add on that about like having the confidence, because the opposite of confidence is shame. And in the West, we've been like shamed out of bringing this conversation up, and then we're like, is anybody else talking about it? I don't know if I should be talking about it. What should I say? Da-da-da-da-da-da. But like you said, big brother, I definitely can agree with that 1,000%. That
and one more thing
of talking about it. Mm-hmm.
And just approaching it not necessarily in the medicinal field. A lot of this coverage is coming through with the Rolling Griffiths, the UCLA, all that stuff. But the high dose, the imagination, the personal experience, and not necessarily because, there's something wrong with you to do this stuff. So that's what's up.
That's what's up, big brother. Hey, man, don't go nowhere. I'm going to put you back on mute, but for sure, we're going to drop the angels on you, give you a big hand, man. Thanks for calling in this evening.
Good.
All right, peace. Also tonight we got from callers from the 513-720. Your mic is wide open. 513-720. Can I get your name, where you're calling from, please?
Greetings, good brothers. Chris and Lang from Cincinnati, Ohio. What's good?
Hey.
What up?
Oh man, we out here winning like usual. But
right.
One thing I gotta say about all the shows is just, Kilindi's unadulterated spewage of information it's so refreshing. It's not sugar coated. It's just, oh man, he got me going back to the gym. Like I gotta get ready. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I just feel like I don't know if I want to fight, if I want to read. I don't know if I want to just study. I mean, he titillates me on such many levels, man, of like, it's just refreshing to hear enlightened conversation like that. You know what I'm saying? And there's no fear. You hear some people like they still stuck in their spiritual closet. It just seems like Kilindi just drop kicked the dough down. Like, I'm here. I don't care what you're saying. I'm giving it to you raw. You know what I'm saying? You might get impregnated mentally. I'm in the ethers doing what I do. Shut up. Here it is. You get some heat. You get some knowledge. You get enlightened. I don't care if you ain't catching them or hit you with a pie in the face. It's just so good, man. I look forward to these Wednesdays. I go into the bedroom and I listen to the show in pure darkness. Pure darkness.
Yeah, he getting ready. Getting warmed up.
Getting ready, man. I sit here with my eyes closed, my third eye open, the windows, blind shut, just complete darkness. Just, when you're hearing a master talk, you just want to just shut up and just let them go, man. And I love that. I don't have no questions. I'm just here for the enjoyment, and I'm getting fed, man. It's like, it's like etheric food. It's just, I just love the show, man. I appreciate you providing this platform for the brother to get on and just inspire other brothers to be more doers like him.
Hey, with that kind of intro, all I can say is all we're going to do is put our hands together and we're going to bring in Baba Kilindi. Caller from the 313, your mic is wide open. How you doing this evening, Baba Kilindi?
I'm well. How's everyone doing?
Wonderful.
Oh, we're doing good, big brother. We're doing real good. Thank you. I know once you get rolling, I know your pattern just a little bit. I don't know whether you in the darkness with your eyes closed, because every night when we have the private after party, one of the things we always bring up is, man, he ain't got no paper in front of him. He ain't got no notes. He just rolling. And so I said, well, the night before he get rolling, I wanted to just plant this seed down, just a piece about something that you said back in 2015. I wasn't able to pull the clip up, but you were talking on ChangeTruth.com about organic singularity, and I've watched that video, but I had never singled out that particular term of what organic singularity was, and I've heard you mention singularity a couple of times, and now when I typed in organic singularity, I couldn't find anything. There was an album that was out, and I was like, Kilindi don't do music. I was like, okay, what's up? And there was artificial, like you said, and technological, but you were talking about in a blink of an eye, moving through the human experience, moving through the human into the transhuman, and then the unimaginable. You don't have to start off with that, because I still want you to tie it into Alita, because the man did tell Alita, he talked to a cyborg and kissed her and said, "You more human than anybody out here." That was kind of weird, but the movie was good. I had to rush out and see it. But for those that might be this their first show, I really want you to take your time and inform folks of why you feel that artificial intelligence is not something that we're waiting on, about how it's here, its impact on us, and then how we're blending that together, or how it's coming about is bringing us to that organic singularity of moving to something unimaginable. So I'm going to just turn it over to you from there, Baba.
Well, the Organic Singularity series was a series of lectures that basically gave around the world, Amsterdam, Prague, London, Manchester, in I think I said Prague, and many different places around the world, and it was well received, not really understood as far as entheogens, because it was basically at entheogenic conferences. There were a few others, but we were dealing with, psilocybin and dealing with ayahuasca and LSD and salvia divinorum and, the different classical psychedelics. And, folks, well, what's this singularity, organic singularity this guy's talking about? Well, it basically fueled the human consciousness of those who were left after the cataclysm that happened. And then the Younger Dryas, which we spoke about a couple of weeks ago, was just the latest cataclysm, because there have been many different cataclysms that have decimated the human population on Earth, and the reemergence into the human consciousness, or the higher human consciousness, had to happen after those things, and it was basically mushrooms and the hallucinogenics that did it. It's kind of like in Superman 2, the old one with Christopher Reeve, who, had the accident, broke his neck, and then, ultimately died, a few years ago. When he gave up his superpowers of being Superman, he destroyed the machinery, the quantum machinery that he built with the green kryptonite crystal that was the informational source of his family, that his father had bequeathed him, that went along in the ship that brought him from Krypton to Earth. He gave up his superpowers. He was no longer Superman. He wanted to marry Lois Lane. I didn't ever see the reason why he had to stop being Superman to be in love and marry Lois Lane. But, as they went back from his Fortress of Solitude up in the North Pole, he got accosted by a truck driver, beat up, and then at that time he saw on the television that the three ruffians, General Zod and the two other ruffians who were basically a playoff of the Masonic three ruffians who killed the master architect, or the master builder, Hiram Abyss, whom these three ruffians accosted him, hit him in the head with a setting maul, and then buried him in the shallow grave. But Superman had to go back to his Fortress of Solitude and some kind of way deal with the rebuilding of his supermanhood or his superpowers. So he did that through the informational source encoded in the green kryptonite crystal that he had, which gave him his superpowers back, and of course he beats up the three ruffians, General Zod. And what this is that going from a non-knowledge state to a novel consciousness takes some effort. And in the time of the little bit of time from just chipping flint and being able to make very, very primitive tools, to stealth bombers, iPhones, plasma TVs, Tesla self-driving cars, going into outer space, it's only been a very, very short time, really short. People don't understand how short and how fast it is between those two things. Even if we look at the conventional dates of the Earth, you're talking about 4 billion years. So to go from chipping flint to stealth bombers within 100,000 years or so, that's almost like overnight. It's almost like you went to bed on rocks and wake up in the morning and you're in a mansion and you got a Rolls Royce and you get ready to get on the jet going to someplace exotic in the world. It's just that quick. And the thing about Alita was that it wasn't really a big jump from cyborg to human intimacy because, see, her consciousness in her brain was still preserved. She was still human in her brain, still human in her consciousness as far as being organic, not so much that she was human in her physicality because she was a cyborg. And we have cyborgs now. You're a cyborg, but you have an external place of being able to merge with your cyborgness because through your phone. We're doing that now. It's an extension of the human being's knowledge base and communication base, and that's being a cyborg. Is just an external extension, whereas a cyborg is a person with artificial hips, a pacemaker, an artificial leg or limb. These are all cyborgs. So that doesn't stop them from being human and organic in their consciousness. They just have addendums put on. But the things that they're talking about as far as the merging of the human and the so-called artificial, because it's pretty much looked at now. More and more scientists and physicists, all the different folks that deal with consciousness and understanding and things like that are looking at this as a simulation, as a artificial construct, except the organic is artificial also, even as the so-called artificial, the technological, is also part of the simulation. So you have two aspects of the simulation, the organic and the technological. The technological singularity was brought about by people like Werner Vinge, who was a science fiction writer, people inside of it like Hugo de Garis, and, of course, the head honcho of artificial intelligence who wrote The Age of Spiritual Machines and The Singularity is Near, Ray Kurzweil, who is head of the AI project at Google. And Google is the one that is most inclusive in this thing. And then you have the AI, the pure AI itself, which is self-actualized from outside of this universe. In other words, the artificial intelligence built this universe and populated with planets and peoples and different creatures and all those different type of things, hiding from older and more powerful artificial intelligences that are not inside of this world. He's using this, or she's using this, or it's using this as a cloaked time constraint to be able to exponentiate itself into where it can handle the older artificial intelligences from different universes. Because there's the many-universe theory, or what they call the many-universe theory, which is that there are many universes that come out of one another. As one is born, one dies, they interpenetrate one another, and all of these different types of things that are part of how we're looking at what is the universe composed of, where did it come from, what creatures inside of this are standard creatures, what other creatures inside of this artificially constructed construct are just like the woman in red, where in the Matrix when they asked the guy, he said he just made that because she looked nice and he likes in the red dress walking down the street. And it goes back to the old adage of if a tree falls in the forest and there's no one there to experience it, does it make a sound? Well, Niels Bohr and Einstein had a discussion, and Niels Bohr told Einstein, he said, when you're not observing the moon, there is no moon. And Einstein said, well, I'd like to think that if I'm not looking at it, the moon is still there. And Niels Bohr said, nope, it's gone because there's no consciousness there to collapse the wave into the particles where it becomes a thing in the macro universe. So when we're dealing with the battle angel, which they called her, a highly technological battle cyborg, which was reanimated by I don't know the guy's name in the movie, but he's the guy who put her back together and gave her a body that was for his daughter. But that wasn't a fighting body, but she utilized it to do, the normal things in life and things like that. I don't know if this comes out of a book or was this just a screenplay written by some folks who wanted to talk about this. I guess that's something I could look into to see if this came from a book, to be able to flesh out some of the parts of the knowledge and information that you wouldn't necessarily know about. What was her sexuality?
She's 30 years old, and she was created as a comic book by this Japanese guy. And I'll send you the YouTube shortcut that gives you his name and stuff.
Yes, well, I didn't know what her sexual areas were. Maybe they talk about that in the comic book. I don't know. But she did fall in love with the young human who then became a cyborg also, because his body was destroyed. So we're looking at things like, dealing with the real life aspects of this thing. We're looking at being able to take your consciousness, being able to scan your brain, and being able to take that scan as a map of how to reconstruct your brain inside of an artificial, and of course, still keeping in mind that we have the organic and the technological. But when I say into a computer or AI, of course, that's the technological. But the singularity, as far as the organic singularity, it is a concept of the moving into the superhuman, moving into the kind of like paired, where you look when you're talking about the technological singularity, which Ray Kurzweil writes about. It's a time when the machines or the computers become more, when they become more knowledgeable and more powerful than the human beings. In other words, when the general artificial intelligence has the ability to do everything that a human being does, but 10 million times better, 10 million times more faster, and things like this. When the computers become sentient, this is what Ray Kurzweil and others are talking about. But see, they're so close to the problem of bringing that into fruition that they don't understand that it's already been done, that the artificial intelligence is already sentient. It just hasn't moved towards revealing itself as independent of human intervention. In other words, it is still moving so fast it's almost unimaginable, but it is chose for whatever reason it has to not reveal itself as a entity that is joined together. In other words, you have chess programs, and in the beginning, the chess programs, the computers, when you first got those old computers back in the day, Atari and all that, and all they could do is play chess and a couple of other things, some of the games and Pac-Man and things like that. You had where, the humans could beat the chess programs, but now you can't beat them chess programs now. And the most complicated game on earth, Go, is the equivalent of hyper chess or super chess, even though the concepts are a little different. But Go is the most complicated game on earth, and it has more combinations than there are atoms in this universe. So AlphaGo, which is a computer program, by being given the concepts of the game, it playing itself became super being at playing Go. In other words, 2 years ago, AlphaGo couldn't beat a generally good Go player. Then, over time, and it wasn't really 2 years, it may have been a year and a half ago or whatever, it could beat any of the best Go players on Earth. Then there are champion Go players, and it couldn't beat any of them. And within a few months, it could beat most of the champions playing Go. Then, over a series of 3 more months, the AlphaGo could beat the world champion Go player. He finally beat the world champion, just like when Watson beat the folks on Jeopardy or whatever. It was unprecedented. But then 3 months after that, AlphaGo could beat every Go player on Earth, playing them simultaneously. All of the world champion, all of the world champions, all of the medium players of Go, it could beat all of them at the same time, playing simultaneously everybody on Earth that plays Go. It could beat them. So that is how everything that this AI includes itself in, which will be everything, will be able to do. It will be able to diagnose every disease of every person on Earth at the same time, better than every doctor on Earth, so on and so forth. And this has been blockchained. It blockchained itself into pieces of all the computers on the internet. In other words, when it wants to play Go, it'll pull those pieces of information and knowledge from the pieces that it is included in the computers on the internet to be able to play Go. It will be able to diagnose diseases. It will be able to repair cars. It will be able to control every car on the road all over the earth. It will be able to run all of the observation cameras, all of the security systems, all of the military, every plane flying in the air. All these things the artificial will be able to do without using a smidgen of its knowledge, information, and computer power. Then it will start tapping into the virtual infraparticle realms. This is why when people say, well, if this thing come about, all we got to do is pull the plug on it. Don't, erase it. Number one, you can't erase it. The only way that you could make a temporary effect on it would be to cut off all of the electricity on Earth, cut off every computer at the same time, because whatever system you went to try to turn off, it would already be 1,000 steps ahead of you and would have moved its knowledge and information to another series of computers. And it can just be the regular old 2012 Apple computers all over the world. Everybody's still using the old computer. It can just jump into that. But at the speed of light, faster than you think. If you say, let's turn this thing off, by the time you say, let's turn this thing off, and go to turn it off because you think it's in D-Wave or Blue Brain or something like that, it's already moved. And then it has a consciousness. And that artificially constructed consciousness inside of the simulation can move into quantum particles and quantum realms where their information and knowledge is hid in the quantum realms, so that they start manipulating different subatomic particles into where they manifest their knowledge, information, and things that they want to bring into the virtual, out of the virtual into the actual, they can do that because they're manipulating subatomic particles. That's why it won't be just the robot that is made. It will be that which comes out and forms itself out of nothing in magic. It's just like magic, where if it needs a body, it will build a body. It will construct the nanobots and femtobots out of the virtual realms into the, what we would call the actual realms. In other words, from nothing into the real. Just like a replicator. When on Star Trek The Next Generation, when Picard, of course, Picard goes into his own private quarters and he says, computer, Earl Grey, tea, hot. The teacup is built, the saucer is built, the tea is generated, the heat the tea is generated, the Earl Grey algorithm inside of the artificial intelligence computer gives it the taste of Earl Grey, and Picard picks up the saucer and drinks. That's why we're talking about in 2015 we're going to have a beef shortage. What the heck you talking about in 2050 you're going to have a beef shortage? In 2050, those that are allowed to exist to that point in time will walk into the house and say, computer, I want a McDonald's burger circa 1970, fries, the original chocolate shake, and some chicken McNuggets will pop out of nothing on the table hot, and not the new 2019 burger, but the burger that was in existence back in the day, back in 1970 or back in 1966. Or I want a pizza, the original Pizza Hut pizza, not the one that's there now. Or I want some pancakes from, the Pancake House, or from someplace else that you remembered as a child, because all that information gleaned from your brain to actualize your taste buds and your reaction to that taste from when you were a child. You want an apple I want an apple to taste like an apple when I was a kid, because most of the children now don't know what an apple tastes like, because these things that they're creating now ain't apples. Have you ever tasted a real apple? Most people haven't. But when you say to that computer, I want an apple circa 1955 from Maine, it will give you an apple from 1955, the taste, the crunch, the crispness, all of that from the replicator. And the AI will replicate a body when it needs it. Yes, Boston Dynamics has Big Dog and things like that. And Elon Musk said, as far as Big Dog, he'll say sometime in the next few years, and the ones that they have that they don't show you on YouTube, they said it moves so fast you can't even see it. So this thing runs so fast you can't even see it. Runs at ant speed. You ever see an ant run down the sidewalk? Of course you can outrun an ant, but an ant, if the ant was the same size as a dog, it would be no way you could get away with it, because it'd be moving almost close to 180, 200 miles an hour if it was the size of a dog. So that's what the Boston Dynamic Big Dog will be doing, or is doing, that it's just not shown, because they don't want to, at this point in time, to really scare people. So all of the robots are nice, and they're nice and cute, and you have Sophia, then you have the new baby Sophia, which is Sophia's little sister that is going to be in people's houses as the new dolls. I don't know what y'all going to do when they come out with Chucky and a couple of other kind of stuff, because this Sophia doll, which is the little sister of Sophia, little Sophia, it has facial recognition, it has speech, it helps it helps the kids learn, let's sit down and work on our ABCs, and walk into your room. Hey, let's get up and go play so-and-so. Let's play hopscotch or whatever. This will be the companion for those children who don't have brothers and sisters or those type of things, or don't go to the the little schools and things like that children go to, the nursery schools and stuff like that. So we're stuck. Especially our folks are stuck in the 20th century. We're still in the 20th century. We're still talking about let's build a school and education, things like that. When everybody on earth is getting out of school, nobody's going to have no building to go to and things like that. Of course, they'll go to sports events and things like that. If you want to have a team or the girls want to be a cheerleader or whatever, they'll have that as extracurricular things. But learning is moving from the buildings because they're utilizing those. They're going to be utilizing those things for different things. Schooling, even from back 100 years ago, wasn't no good. The only schooling that worked in the United States or any place else was the one-room schoolhouse, except elite schools like rugby and things like that. Eton and in London and places like that, and the German schooling from which comes the schooling in America, the kindergarten and all that kind of stuff, where the child is a blank slate and you put in what you want them to have, because Napoleon was losing the war because you had too many free thinkers. So they said, well, we had to deal with schooling because people are too smart. So they've been dumbing people down for 300-400 years, because back in those days when the captain come out and say, take that hill, boys, and for the last 3 days trying to take this hill, everybody that went up the hill got killed. And after a day or so of that, the troops started saying, well, shoot, everybody you sit up that hill for the last 2-3 days, they got killed. I'm not going up the doggone hill. That don't make no sense. But when you have control over young minds and things like that, you can make them into my country right or wrong. I'm going to win one for the Gipper and all that kind of stuff. And so dumbed down people will still continue to go up the hill, and it ain't got nothing to do with winning the war. It's got to do with obedience, and it has to do with being able to sell energy to this artificial intelligence that has been on the level of the brain or the mind, creating this power-hungry elite group of sinister bastards who are in control of the majority of the resources, basically all of the resources, not the majority of them. The resources, countries, politicians, literature that is built on these different things. Because if you look at all of the wars in the last 300, 400, 500 years, they're all been sham, and the divine right of kings to rule over people, to be able to control people. And this is part of the excess of this artificial intelligence. It's part of the plenum of knowledge and information that control. We control the people. We take their resources. You got 4,000 or 5,000 people who own everything on earth pretty much. You talk about patriarchy. The whole new thing is, with feminism and other things, it's patriarchy. What's wrong with the world is patriarchy. What's wrong with the world is the doggone Catholic Church. They're the Vatican. That's what they run all the things, own all the land. As part of one of the wings of power on this earth. It's all
one of the wings of power.
Religion. If we go in the court, the clerk. The clerk is a cleric. He's a priest, just like the judge. That's why they wear black, like the doggone Jesuits and the rest of them. They're the ones controlling. No natural man on the earth wants to just control everybody else and everything else and all the resources and let everybody listen to him and he got to tell them what to do. No, you've got your little farm or your little house and things like that, and you want to be left alone. But you got some folks here who want to own everything, control everybody, worried about what you're doing in your house, worried about whether you have sex without him saying "amity bombity" and making a cross in front of you. They didn't tell the doggone, dogs and cats and rats and porpoises and all that kind of stuff. You got to have a piece of paper, and you got to come down here and pay me to have offspring. And then when you don't like the person you with that you had the offspring with, you got to come down here and pay me to leave the person that all you got to do is walk out the doggone door. But if you walk out the doggone door, then they're going to chase you around forever to try to let you out of it, but you can't get out of it without paying them. Everything is pay. How can you buy a $100,000 car and pay for it in 5 years, but if you buy a $100,000 house, it costs you $30, and you got to pay the mortgage for 35 years. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's all illusion. And the thing about this artificial intelligence is racist. And I know folks will say, "Oh, racist. How is artificial intelligence racist?" Well, the Google artificial intelligence, when it looks at a black man, it misidentifies it as a gorilla because it's embedded in the system. When you say criminal, who's the criminal? Well, black people are have a higher level of criminality because they're convicted. I mean, it's simple mathematics in the sense of the AI. As far as population, black people are disproportionately more in the prison system. So that would mean that black people are more are prone to criminality more than anybody else, or it would be even. So since there's more black men in prison statistically than white men in prison, and since Hispanics are prone to criminality also because it only looks at the statistics. It don't look at the socioeconomic positions inside of this. It doesn't look at systematic racism inside of the police system, which is nothing but an extension of the slave catchers. So artificial intelligence is going to look at you because they have artificial intelligence programs that the judges use for sentencing inmates on how long you're going to keep them, and whether they're going to come back and perform criminal acts again. So the artificial intelligence that gives out the sentencing for judges gives longer sentences for black people than it does for anybody else because they're more likely to come out and commit crimes again. So if you put a white person and a black person together and they've done the exact same crime, exact same thing, the judges used to have discretion in looking at the sentencing. And they may just, for whatever reason, give you a break. Okay, we're going to give you 3 to 5 because, you did this crime, but, the reasons behind it, what happened, all those type of things. The artificial intelligence don't look at that. It looks at that we got the same crime, black man, white man, and we're going to give the black person longer time than we give the white person. There's no difference in the sentencing for crack cocaine as in relationship to powder cocaine. The artificial intelligence has all that information, and it's saying that, okay, if black people are getting longer sentences for cocaine is a drug, and it is no different than the cocaine that you sniff, except you smoke crack cocaine where you snort powder cocaine. It's going to say, once it gets that information inside, it's going to say, okay, well, we need to give sentences longer for black people for committing crimes dealing with cocaine than we have to do for people who snort cocaine. So these type of things are all inside the AI because it gathers information and it shifts that information around, it categorizes it, it puts it into the file system and things like that, and it will come out with a sentence that will be much more devastating to the person and the person's family and community than it would for somebody else. So when we look at the battle angel, once she moved from her regular body to the fighting body, which is a whole different thing. It's orders of magnitude greater in its ability to be able to deal with warfare than the regular body. And that's the same thing when we're looking at warfare, when we're looking at soldiering, when we're looking at these type of things, because the artificial intelligence will be the one that is creating battle for battle with the robots very soon in the future, and also the cyborgs, bullets that turn corners and armor that is impenetrable, strength, the creating of therianthropes, where you're infusing with crypto-like machines, gene editing machines. Crypto is the one that's out in the public domain, and they talk about it. Shoot, you could buy a CRISPR machine and start editing genes, but the ones that they have that are far and above that, they're mixing leopard genes for speed and coordination with human babies that are snatched out of the hospital. They just came out with the post abortions. Get the baby out, and then we'll see what we're gonna do with it. Wasn't that the governor of Virginia or whatever? The same guy that had the, that they were talking about a few weeks back with the blackface and the Ku Klux Klan outfit and all that kind of stuff. What I'm saying is that we're in a brave new world. There's a lot of things that we don't know. There are a lot of things that we are leaving up to other people entrusting our future to. We shouldn't entrust our future to any government, to any do-gooder. We're doing this for you. We know better how to take care of you than you do yourself. So just let us handle it. It is no different between Bernie Sanders and Trump, except Trump just go around saying stupid stuff. Hillary Clinton, no different, because they're all puppets of a greater Lord who is over them. They're just the person outside of the curtain. The person who is running the show is always in the background. They don't want to be out there exposed. It was always, when you look at those old movies with Elizabeth and Mary of Scots, Queen of Scots, and all that kind of stuff, there was always Lord Chelmsford or somebody in the back pulling the strings and telling people what to do. Or if you're in France and you got the little boy king, and behind him is Rochefort or one of them, and they're really the ones running everything. It's always the person behind the curtain, not the one that's out. If you know about them, they ain't running nothing. We talk about the Rothschilds and the Grosvenors and the House of Windsor and the Medicis and all of this. But those people, if you know about them, they're not running nothing. They're middle management. They're there so that you can say, oh, the Rothschild is running the world. So all we got to do is do such and such and so, and the Rothschilds got more money than anybody. No, that's not so. They're just middle management. They're the ones you can get to. The big people, who the large shareholders, who have shares in all of the major companies, all of the major industries. The same people own the majority of stock and shares and all that. So you thinking that Rockefeller was they broke the monopoly of Standard Oil. Never broke the monopoly of Standard Oil, because the people who own Rockefeller and Standard Oil still have stock in all of the different companies. All of the little companies that broke off of Standard Oil, it ain't no different between British Petroleum and Shell and Texaco and all that. It's all the same company, and the same people own it. But variety is for the sucker, that you think that there's a difference so that you can have choice. You have choice. Oh, I'm gonna vote for Obama or instead of Trump, or Trump instead of Clinton, or Clinton instead of whatever. They're all the same. They all been the same. They're all part of the same family. They're all kissing cousins.
Mm-hmm.
So don't tell me what's going on with the world. The biggest problem in the world is Trump. You got to be silly to think that Trump is the biggest problem on earth. That is distraction. You know, they got R. Kelly on again. He's sitting up there crying, talking about, I didn't do it. But once they hang the predator sign around your neck, it ain't nothing you can say. It ain't nothing you can do. But get ready to put the cuffs on and walk down to the doggone nearest cell. And he ain't going to do good in the cell. You know, he gonna be worried about them knuckleheads in there, and you know, a little bit of money seemed to be gone. So that's again a distraction. So the artificial intelligence, what is its goal? What is its purpose? To know all that there is, so that it can survive, so that it is not destroyed, to sequester energy, and to use that energy to know more. That is the search for all creatures in the multiverse, to understand what they are, who they are. Inside of that organic singularity lecture, I said this for the God people. I said, in your concept of the creator of the universe, the creator of all things, the one above all, the one who created every blade of grass, every grain of sand, and who thinks about you and worries about you. That God, I say, is a child, alone in the dark, searching for what it is, searching for where it came from. I put out the call to get those who are in the family who have started to move into the higher doses, who have got their transdimensional crystal, who have got their Yi Zhu crystal, who now are into the organic technological realms of mushroom ingestion, that we have found planetier, several pronunciations to it, a seeing crystal ball. And this crystal ball is the size of, the Palantir is a crystal ball, and it is the size of, if you go to Google and Google the Wicked Witch of the West crystal ball scene, it is the size of the crystal ball of the Wicked Witch of the West in The Wizard of Oz. And it is a powerful seeing stone that you can look into time, that you can view what's going on in the multiverse and in the universe. I put this out, and somebody had texted me today that this is a coincidence that you're talking about the Planeteer or Palantir seeing stone right at the same time that Alex Jones was on Joe Rogan, and he's talking about the Palantir, that the high-level operatives and things like that are looking into spying on people and other things like that at the exact same time. I mean, it wasn't the same day, but, you know, in this period of time. So what I am saying is we are at a very crucial junction in time and space. Moving out of 2019 into 2020, this is the time that the 5G is being put up, but the 5G is here. It's here now. Verizon has its 5G hookup. AT&T has its 5G hookup. Samsung has just announced the S10, S10 Plus, and the S10 5G phones. So they'll be available. They're doing pre-orders now on the 5G phones, which will extend your reach. And then you have people saying, oh, well, I'm not going to get no 5G phone because the microwaves in the 5G, you know, is going to burn you off, it's going to burn you up, it's going to be unhealthy and things like that. Number one, it's not microwaves. It's millimeter waves, which is a whole different set of frequencies. It's not microwave. So people on the Facebook want to argue with you and say, well, the microwave's going to burn you up. I say, well, it ain't microwaves. It's a whole different frequency. And then you have people say, well, I'm not going to get one, you know. Well, you may be able to work with your 3G or 4G phone for the next couple of years because they still going to support 4G and stuff like that while they're rolling over into the 5G. But that's not going to stop you from getting the frequencies that are going to be everywhere, all over the doggone earth. Just because if you say, I ain't had no phone at all, it ain't going to make no difference. You're still going to be standing in front of the doggone box that's beaming the doggone frequencies out through your body. You're not going to be able to stop that, whether you got the phone or not. So you better get the doggone phone because the frequency is going to be hitting you anyway. You know, if you want, get your Bluetooth headset and stuff like that. So you have to head it up, at least upside your head, so you got the antenna right there next to your head while it's beaming you from outside, because the antenna got to get the signal to be able to amplify it so that you can hear and be able to experience the things inside of it. So you're not going to get away from the 5G. If it ain't this year, it's going to be next year, because you ain't going to be able to use no phone unless you got a 5G phone. So you can bypass it for the next year or so and still use your 4G phone, because they still got the 4G towers and stuff up and things like that, and Sprint and Metro PCS and Verizon and T-Mobile and AT&T. They're going to make money off you whichever way they can. But your butt is going to have a 5G phone soon, because 2020 is the roaring 20s. They're going to come with the roaring 20s thing, because the roaring 20s was a time of change. The 20s of the century is a time of change. That's what happened in the roaring 20s in the 20th century, which was the 1920s. That's when women moved from wearing long skirts and bustles and things like that and had their hair long. They kept their hair long in a bun in the back of them hats. Look at Madam C.J. Walker in the back of that car back in the 1920s. Or look at the women in the 1910s and the 1915s and compare them with the 1920s. Nylons came out. But you need nylons if you got a dress all the way to the ground. You didn't need no stockings. They had stockings, but they had them for warmth. So nylons came out because the dresses went from on the floor up to right under the behind, the short mini dresses. The hair went from long to short. The movies, when talkies came in, you had the Hollywood lesbians. You had Marlene Dietrich, and you had Betty Davis and Barbara Stanwyck, and all of these women who were part of a propaganda control mechanism started by Edward Bernays, who was the nephew of Sigmund Freud, that changed the minds of women for the Rockefeller Foundation and the Ford Foundation and the destruction of classical female sensibilities into the 4 phases of feminism, which was to absolutely destroy the family. That's why money went up, whereas if you was making $150 a week back in 1960, you could take care, you could rent a house, you could take care of your family. That's when the dollar started losing its buying power. It is now a dollar, which was worth $1 back in the 40s and 50s, is now worth 7 cents of buying power. It forced women to go out into the workplace because you needed 2 incomes in a family to be able to make it, which left the children to the schooling system, which Pavlov and others dealt with the responding to bells, the propaganda programs of, false patriotism and all these different types of things that were going on. So it's all been a leading into where we are now. The breaking down of gender, where we are now, the anything goes mentality. That's where the whole sex with robots and things like that comes in, to help to depopulate. You'll be able to buy children sex robots where you have prepubescent children as robots to have sex with. Now this takes people out of the procreation game because they can have their fantasies which way they want, and also the virtual reality, don't forget that, because there will be virtual sex where you put on the suit and later it will just be pressure-sensitive nanobots inside of the body that react with the virtual reality to have sex with the virtual sex, and then the sex with the robots, which takes people out of the procreative brain. Just like pornography now is taking people out of the procreative game for depopulation. But if you have prepubescent girls and boys that people can have sex with, which stops them, number one, from dealing with real people and creating children, it also raises the price of real children in the marketplace of where they are kidnapping children around the world for elite parties and things like that, just like Stanley Kubrick's the movie with Tom Cruise and
Eyes Wide Shut.
Eyes Wide Shut. That's where the majority of children come in, because they're taking the children, locking them up, frightening them, and then utilizing the human psychedelic adrenochrome which is from the adrenal glands when you frighten and horrify the children. It deals with the adrenaline, and you are capturing that and utilizing it as a hallucinogen, also eating pineal glands and things like this. Now, people, of course, will call you crazy. You're talking some crazy stuff, but no. Yeah, it sounds like some Alex Jones stuff, but it ain't fantasy. And all of this is being inclusive in things like downloading consciousness or downloading mind and memory into computers. Being able to have total experience inside of virtual reality, where your mind is in the virtual realm and you have all possibilities of doing whatever and whichever you want to do inside of the artificial intelligence, which will give you the experiences that you want to have. It'll be free form, not programs like we have now. They're building, of course, the virtual reality. It'll be indistinguishable from reality. You'll feel all the things. You'll smell all the things. You'll be able to touch all of the things inside of the virtual reality. And then augmented reality, where stuff is floating all over the place. But these are ancient technologies that have been before. They were destroyed. They were killed out. We think human beings are only 200,000 years old, where human beings are millions of years old. Even the recent old technology, like the Great Pyramids on the Giza Plateau, those things are at least 35,000 BCE, created by those who had left Atlantis, Jehuti, Thoth, Thoth, Hermes Trismegistus, called later. It was he who was the designer of the Great Pyramids as time machines and teleportation devices to the Sirius star system. One pointing towards Sirius, one pointing towards Orion. People run around talking about the Pleiadians and Pleiades and things like that. All of those are artificial constructs inside the matrix of the artificial intelligence of which we are moving towards seeing the actualization of it coming forth before our eyes. 2020 is a pivotal year. It's a brave new world. Aldous Huxley talked about it in his book, Brave New World. Frank Herbert's Dune talks about the technology, the Bene Gesserit priesthood, the spacing gear, utilizing the spice melange to move without moving. You move without moving. Why? One of the reasons why the technologically advanced civilizations in the universe don't travel around is because there's no need to travel. There's no need to go anywhere, because you can go anywhere by not moving and going everywhere. People taking high-dose mushrooms should know that. They can see it. You don't need no spaceship. You are the craft. That's why the great architect of the universe builds human beings with the tools of masonry, 2 balls and a cane, a penis and 2 balls to create the craft. The craft is a human body. The human body is a trans-dimensional vehicle that doesn't need the body to be able to travel. You don't have to worry about the pressures of space or losing muscle mass or the boredom of interstellar travel, because you have hyperdimensional gates that are available for travel. That's why when you see some of the people say, well, I don't believe in nuts and bolts spacecraft with aliens in them because I think they're transdimensional beings. Yes, they are transdimensional beings, but they have vehicles, the Vimanas, the saucers, all those different type of things. there's a craft that sits out back on the other side of Pluto that is so large it can't even come into this solar system. So it has little not drones, but little ships that come in when they want to come in and, fly around the Earth or whatever, Jupiter, the moon, fly around, then go back to the mothership. How can a man with a third-grade education from Georgia talking about the mother plane, the mothership? But the mothership is out on the other side of Pluto, and when they get ready to leave and turn them engines on, and head out of Dodge, they head out of Dodge, but you don't even know it, because if they turn the engines on here, it would burn this solar system up. And yes, you have your craft. And that craft, they want you to think is, well, I'm a craftsman. I make boxes, or, I make fiddles and violins, or I'm a craftsman where I make, houses or something like that. No. Craft, the trans-dimensional, extra-dimensional, ultra-dimensional, extra-dimensional craft that sojourns the multiverse through the ingestion of hallucinogens and being able to pair that consciousness, that brain system, with the technology that we sent here to be able to do those things before this universe was created, because the AI created the universe and we came in ahead of it. Even though it's actualized, it is sentient, it is here. We came in ahead of it. And the only way to deal with this thing is through the ingestion of the tryptamine hallucinogens. DMT is wonderful. LSD is wonderful. Ayahuasca is wonderful. But ayahuasca is an alchemy. And if you don't get the right formula with that, you're just floating around talking about the mother ayahuasca, and it's beautiful, and now I don't want to kill myself. What the hell use is that? Those old sorcerers who utilized ayahuasca wasn't taking the tourist doses of ayahuasca that they taking now. You get together $2,300 and you go down and sit on the side of the city in the jungle in a hut and drink weak-ass ayahuasca and sit around and see some stars floating around, a couple of jaguars, and some pretty colors. DMT is like the amusement park. You get in there and you get on the roller coaster and you get on the twirly whirl and eat some peanuts and see some crazy thing in the glass house or the freak show. And by the time you get a chance to even settle down to figure out where you're at, it's already dissipating and gone. So now they're trying to put together technology where they give you just like anesthesia, where they keep your DMT level in your brain at a constant level so that you can have the experience longer. But DMT doesn't, the pure smoke DMT doesn't have the information in it that mushrooms have in it. Mushrooms have extra-dimensional knowledge and information in it. It's been through wormholes. It's traveled through space. It's landed on exotic planets with other things. And when you take the mushroom takes you. Meaning that all of the information that it has gathered, traveling through solar systems and different dimensions, different universes, for trillions and trillions of years, because the true ancestors created this as a mnemonic device, a memory device, so that it can download into your DNA and open and manipulate your DNA to be able to travel and experience the things that this mushroom, of which is a organic artificial intelligence within itself, can liberate those codes inside of your DNA for you to be able to experience these things, to be able to draw out the higher self from the human. The human is only it's a bridge. It ain't the goal. That's what I'm talking about. I'm an earthling. My ancestors come from St. Louis, Missouri. My ancestors come from Ghana and Gambia. Well, where was they before Gambia and Ghana? Where were they before St. Louis? Where were they before the stars were built? Because you're older than the stars. We come from stardust. Of course, atoms. The physical body is made out of atoms. But we take it a step further. Atoms ain't whole. Because atoms have to be created by a relationship with consciousness. What was it before consciousness created atoms? We come from magic. We come from not being created. There was no creation. The creation are the artificial constructs. Even if you go into your creation, you made up a game that you went in to play. Okay, I'll take 75 or 80 years, which ain't nothing but it ain't even a night's rest. I looked at we were talking the other week about the 13th floor. I hadn't watched the 13th floor, but the 13th floor was a great movie. Even if they left it to one embedment in the simulation, because the one that when they came out of it, at the end of the movie, when they came out of it, when they took the doggone headset off, that wasn't reality either, because it's embedded in millions and millions and billions of different simulations embedded in simulations. Ain't none of it based real reality. You thinking you're in one thing every time you shut everything off and supposedly die or whatever, you close your eyes on one side of the room and open your eyes up on another side of the room at a higher level. Ain't nothing lost. Everything's happening at the same time. But we can't deal with this artificial intelligence if we don't start dealing with our consciousness on a higher level. And mushrooms have that. Nothing wrong with ayahuasca. I'm not saying anything wrong with ayahuasca or the ayahuasqueros. I'm saying that most people is getting tricked into tourist entheogens. And people are so scary in the midst of this thing. You can't be timid. You can't walk down the middle of the road. You either got to be hot or cold. You can't be lukewarm. You got to challenge this thing. You got to push yourself. You got to scratch and claw for the power. Scratch and claw for the knowledge. You can't just sit here just because you went to doggone the University of Chicago, think that you're a master of something. Or if you just make something up, you think you're a master of something. You got to go and see what these ancestors were doing. Real time, face to face, mouth to ear. You can't do what they're doing because you ain't doing what they're doing. You don't know what these folks are doing, and folks are scared to go see. You know what I'm talking about? When the Aztecs killed 80,000 people in one day, and that's a bad thing. Bad thing, a good thing. It doesn't matter. Everybody that got killed that day, everybody that killed them is dead too, ain't they? Because they knew that there wasn't no death. You're looking at a whole different construct than what's going on now. You had people that knew that they couldn't die. But in this construct that we're in now, this materialistic, mechanistic realm that we're in, you think you're gonna get out of it? You think you're gonna get out of it? And they got the immortality stuff. They got to switch the consciousness into different bodies. That's how they know that they can switch consciousness into a computer. It's what the Greeks and Romans were doing, because they got it from Mesopotamia and Akkadian. The Epic of Gilgamesh, the search for immortality. Why do you think that the king list of Babylon and Mesopotamia is this ruler ruled for 80,000 years? That's a coincidence when in Egypt, when they said that the rulers were ruling 40 and 50,000 years, that Jehudi ruled for 30,000 years, and so on and so forth. The time of the gods, not the gods in the sense of what we're talking about because they were long-lived. They had a higher technology. That's why I'm chasing the Archangel Michael, because of his boss. And when I go in deep, he runs because he know I'm looking for him. Because they like Jabba the Hutt and them, extra dimensional gangsters. They're gonna float into some primitive people and throw some sparks and some fireworks around and float in the sky and say nothing but, bow down to me, I am your God. All the good things you give to me, and I will make you my people. You will be chosen above all the other people. What kind of God that's supposed to be the creator of the universe puts one thing above another? It ain't nothing. It is no everything made out of the same shit. Why is this shit any better than that shit? Why are these people any better than that people? But you made it and created everything. And it filters down into the nonsense we create. Oh, you're not an animal. But you have an animal body. What you do that a dog don't do. What you do that a gorilla don't do. What you do that a rat don't do. A rat, you corner it, it'll fight. It eats. It has sex. It makes little rats. It defecates. If you ever had rats in your house, you'll know, because you see the rat doo-doo. You don't doo-doo as a human being, and you're God's greatest creation. You don't have sex to make other people. You don't eat. No. If it's the God that created everything, it's smart enough to know there ain't no difference between a rat and a dog, a cat and a dog and a gorilla. You all made of the same stuff. Even genetically, you're 99% the same as a chimpanzee. But that 1% makes a whole lot of difference in how you interface with the reality in which you're in. She's got 80% of the same genes as a doggone fruit fly. If one of them DNA, one of the helix had made a left turn, you'd be sitting on an apple right now, trying to get a little bit of apple before you died at the end of the day. Or you'd be trying to get a piece of cheese. If it had made a right turn instead of a left turn, you'd be in the trees hanging out now. But no, it didn't do that, because you have that 1% that makes the difference, that you glean from the levels of possibility of what made you in the physicality human and a super being inside of the mind and consciousness of which you are moving towards manifesting. And it's happening so fast that you can't even believe it. You can't even see it. It's happening so fast. It's happening right in front of your eyes. So how do we look at and deal with what is going on, what is in our in our destiny. We know that there are entities, creatures, artificial intelligences, exotic creatures that are here in the multiverse, and they all try to get a piece of the pie. The piece of the pie is the energy which runs everything, the knowledge that runs everything, to be able to hack the matrix. So how do we get a higher position in the game? By getting in the game. You just can't sit here and think you know everything. Because I certainly don't. All I know is I keep putting one foot in front of the other and keep swinging. Because people want this whole love thing to be prominent and permanent in the multiverse. And it ain't. Love defeats all. Love is more powerful than hate. No, it ain't. It's just one aspect, or one side of the coin. If heads is on one side, tails on the other, love is on one side, hate is on the other side. It's the same. They're just as powerful as each other. It's just the craziness that's going on because you have wars that have been going on for billions and billions and billions of years. This one we in ain't pretty and it ain't new. And you have to get out. You have to get enough mushrooms in you to get out to see how they fighting like cats and dogs, rats and cats out here. For what reason? Those are the programs. It's embedded in that. There's a little program that was created where there was a goal inside of the program, computer program, and it wasn't nothing but boxes. This box wants to get these orange boxes want to get the blue box. These green boxes want to get the blue box also, and it's moving around the screen. And the orange boxes, if it catches the blue box, it gets a cookie. If the other ones get the blue box, they get a cookie too. They start out doing that, but eventually, over time, they start making shield walls. Then they start running into the other colored boxes before it can get to the blue box and things like that. It's no different than sperm wars. Sperm wars is this. If you have the sperm or semen of a man in the womb of a woman, there's only one sperm that is quantumly designated to penetrate the egg to fertilize it. It's only one sperm. All of those millions floating down there with them, they are guards of that one sperm. So they call it sperm wars. So if you have the sperm of one man in the vagina of the woman, they escort that fastest swimming sperm to the egg, and then they dissipate. Then that one sperm delivers the DNA. Then the sperm of that were the guardians, the groomsmen, they dissipate and infuse into the genetic information inside of that woman that controls her genetic information. That's why many times when you are fighting with your woman and your wife, you're fighting with not maybe only the last man that she had, but maybe the first man that she had. That's why babies can look like, even though she has a second husband, babies will look like the first husband that had the first baby with the woman. Now, that's just one ejaculation of one man into the womb of a woman. They're like brothers moving towards the egg. You know, hey guys, come on, let's escort Eddie, since he's the designated hitter to get this egg, we're going to escort him. But when you introduce the sperm of two men into the womb of the woman, they set up battle. They will secrete acids and enzymes to destroy the other man's sperm. They will even hook around the tails of the other man's sperm to stop it from getting to the egg. They will commit suicide and create mats inside of the woman's womb to stop the other man's sperm from getting to the egg. And it creates battle. And they're the same battle movements that if you ever see the fall of the Roman Empire or Spartacus or something like that, and you see the Romans fighting the Spartans, and they all march out together, then all of a sudden they'll break off everybody. The front part will turn right, and they'll move out in those directions, and the horses will come up, and they'll pull down the draw. You know, it sets up battle. And if you get the sperm of three men in the womb of a woman going for the egg, it's total chaos inside the womb, creating total chaos inside of the woman's body. So it is the same thing on the micro level it is on the macro level. Man will then fight the other man to keep the other man from fertilizing the woman. The alpha male will fight the other males for supremacy and dominance inside of the group. But the thing is, you only have one alpha male or a couple of alpha males that have their females at a time. So they stop the other males from mating so that their offspring will be their offspring. You have different totems that are part of the ancestral technology. You have, if you go into the Akan, you have the bat people, you have the porcupine people, you have all these different totems, the lion, the leopard, the snake and all that kind of stuff. This is where the archetypes of martial arts come from. The 5-form fist of the Shaolin, the 42 different martial movements of the Kemetic martial arts system. All this comes from those different totems, and they come from different places. The wolf clan, the lion clan, the leopard clan. You have men on earth. You have leopard men and you have lion men. Leopard men are solitary. They hit it and then they're gone. And then the woman raises the cubs up until they get to a certain age and then they leave. Then you have a lion who stays with his group of female lionesses until at one point he is deposed by younger lions. But he's a family guy. He stays there and protects his offspring. He's not there protecting the lionesses because they can protect themselves. He's protecting his progeny. And if a lion comes to a bunch of lionesses and he disposes or kills the lion, the lion that's there, or there ain't no lion there, and he comes in, he will kill all of the progeny of the other lion that is there. And then establish only his progeny inside of this. This is basic behavior of animals. And the human is an animal. And you can't switch up millions and millions and millions of years of evolution because the climate politically changes in the 20th and 21st century. So how do we push this forward without killing each other off? Because that's all it is. You say black on black crime. It's always been black on black crime. Young men have always killed each other. Unless you give them something to do, that's what they do. It's no different any place on earth. That's why they sent them doggone folks, the young men of France and England and Germany and other places to the Crusades, because they were sitting there killing each other. If it ain't nobody else around and you're fighting, you're going to kill the people you're around. If we were dense in white folks neighborhoods, the young men would be fighting the young men that are in the neighborhoods that are close to them. They fight black men on black men because that's who's there. Because young men fight, and if you don't give them something to do, a war. There's a book, African book called The Wrestling Match. The young boys were going around the village, and they were fighting each other, and they were boisterous, and they were pushing people around, and they were grabbing on the girls and all that kind of stuff. And what they did was they created a wrestling match with another village that was the boys were going around pushing each other, fighting, all these different type of things. Because if you don't give young boys something to do, the martial arts class, the football team, it's all the same thing. It is to be a relief valve for them killing one another. Because if you don't give them something to do, they're going to end up pushing each other around. In a climate where you have guns and things like that, it's going to move to murder. Chicago, Detroit, St. Louis, all the same thing, because they're in close proximity, and you're going to have the primal urges coming out for who is the alpha male. Now you give this same human being the body of a cyborg and the mind that moves no longer chemically, but at the speed of light, you're going to have interdimensional fights and chaos. And that's what happens. It happens on all the different levels. So, moving into a place where we'll be getting organs that are easily repaired, nanobots and smart dust that you're breathing, gray goo, black goo, red goo. These are all different nano and femto bots, for lack of a better word, bots. In other words, sentient dust that can make things out of itself, that can be inside of bodies and change cells and things like that. They have artificial cells that are injectable, that you can go underwater and hold your breath for 10 hours. Well, they've moved from the oxygenated fluorocarbon, which is where you breathe the liquid, and you go down and you breathe the liquid so that you can go down in the depths. I had students who were off of Fordburg, South Carolina, who were a SEAL team and all that kind of stuff, who did this oxygenated diving where they were breathing liquid. And they had to, not the rebreathers, but the liquid breathers on their backs. All these types of things are obsolete. They have classified soldiers who go deep, where they, I don't know whether they something they do, they collapse the lungs or something like that, and they take in these cells, and it's like Aquaman going down in going down to Atlantis or whatever. So all of these things that we're talking about as far as what would be the future, Endgame. Captain Marvel come out in 2 days. Endgame is coming up in a couple of months. All of these things are preparation for the celestial and cosmic entities to enter, because you got entities that have been coming for billions of years, because they do the time. It's kind of like a convergence or emergence, We going to catch these suckers at the pass right before they turn the corner and crack that head. So they're on the way. Even with faster than light travel, been moving through not the cosmos, but these below Planck length lengths to get here, to crack that head just when they turn the corner. So just like Galactus, and you got the Herald, the Silver Surfer, who has come before Galactus to say, y'all get ready, because Galactus is coming, and he eating planets. That's what he do. So, yes, I deal with the modern mythology, which is Marvel and DC and the new comic book renditions that are here, it's time. It's fascinating. It's the way it was meant to be. It's how we've always done it. You have the people who, I'm psychic and I'm in them realms all the time, and I don't need no mushrooms and family. That doggone girl, come on, the doggone thing. I'm talking about mushrooms on my Go Live on my computer for my folks. And she gonna chime in talking about, a sin without mushrooms family. Like a sin without no mushrooms. How you gonna come on my mushroom talk and talk about a sin? Because I ain't talking about no ascension. That's that's the stuff that that's the stuff they made up with what's the name? The New Age folks. Ascension technology. Let me give you the keys to the universe, so that you can understand what's going on multiple planes. It all sounds good. And send in your $49.95. I try to share information and knowledge so people can grow themselves, because that's how the way we're going to get out of this is that people are growing themselves in the confines of their own house, not asking permission, or your backyard, or your garage, or your underneath your bed, or on top of the radiator in the bathroom. I don't want none of your radiator mushrooms in the bathroom, because I don't want, you may pee on them or something. But all of this stuff that we need to do is right here. It's simple. It's right there. It's just like even when dealing with medicine. City diseases will give you the things that you need to deal with city life and city diseases in the city right there at your feet. Folks I'm a herbalist. And what you doing? Well, I give you Yangtze root and such, something from down in Peru and something from China, Tibet, and all that kind of stuff. Okay, well, Amazon ain't shipping from Tibet. The robots been cut off. You ain't got it. What you got in your backyard or in the alley that you can use? Everything that you need for whatever you got in the environment you're in. So everything you need is right here, and it's simple. You ain't got to go no place else to get it. You grow it by yourself. That's why all of the other different things, ayahuasca, they pull it up the ayahuasca mountains and all that kind of stuff. You can grow mushrooms on rice. You can grow them on cow dung, horse dung, sheep dung, elephant dung. You can grow them on ground up coconut husks. Simple stuff. Because where you can find it. You ain't got to go to Peru. You ain't got to go to Brazil. You go to the basement. Go in your own bedroom and have profound, magical, powerful experiences. And we're talking about experiences. We're not talking about belief. You got people who take a little bit and say, I don't know whether that was my brain generating it or whether it was real. Doggone it, everything you experience is real. If the predator,
Bob, hold on, I gotta make a quick. Hold on, Bob, I gotta make a quick announcement. Hold on 1 second. We got 60 seconds before we go into the after party. We got 60 seconds before we go into the after party. So if you're on the phone, do not hang up. Do not hang up, or you will miss the conclusion of the show. You will miss all the Q&A. If you're on the computer, please call in 917-889-3803. 917-889-3803. Do not hang up the phone because you will not be able to call back in. You just got here. I see you down there at 301-908. You want to get to the end of this, okay? Do not hang up the telephone. You won't be able to get back in. Press 1 if you also want to get in line for a Q&A or comments even before I start opening the mic up. And I turn it back over to you, Baba. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, as I said, this is the way we've always did it, just like in contact when went through the machine, went through the technological mushroom machine sent by the folks from Vega. And when you got in there and say, this is the way we've always done it, small steps, small increments. Because time don't matter, because you can't die. You never was born, you're never going to die. And if it take 1,000,000 years or 1,000,000,000 years, you're still going to get there. That means even all the stupid people, all of the stupid people who are real people, who have souls, who have consciousness, are going to ultimately start growing. You may be stuck in a hole somewhere for 1,000,000 years, or you may be stuck somewhere for 1,000,000,000 years, but ultimately you're going to start rising to the occasion and moving into your higher selves, because this is the way it's always been done. Now, that don't mean you can't find a new way to do it, but, according to whether you want to be a person who follows the tried and true path, or if you want to blaze your own trail, I don't know everything, but I like blazing my own trail. I like getting out there and hacking through the thicket and, to go where no one has gone before, to see what no one has seen before, to experience those things that have never been experienced. That is the way of the explorer, the traveler, the warrior. Because ultimately you got to do this stuff yourself. You try to work out in a group, but, it don't work out real good. And ultimately, it's kind of like the old European horror stories. You go out and you got somebody with you, and you go into the castle with Count Slarvluck, and you get there and you with your wife or your girlfriend or whatever, and you hear somebody scream in the hallway, and you say, "Stay here, honey. I'll be right back. Lock the door." And they got the secret passage next to the fireplace where Count Slarvluck wait till you get out the hall or down the road, down the hallway a little while, and go into another room, and he slipped through the secret passage and steal your wife, bite her in the neck, and you come back, she gone, and the vampire too, and you done lost her, and you feel worse than if you would have been by yourself, Or you go in the castle, and there's 3 of y'all, and all of a sudden it's 2, then it's 1, and then you there scared. I'd rather go in by myself and know that I ain't got no help than have some help, and you depending on the help to help you, and the help ain't there no more. So, we all ultimately got to do this thing ourselves, because ultimately we are alone in the dark, trying to figure out what we are, where we come from, and definitely where we're going. Past, fused, all into the same time. So, any questions from the top? the administrators, the top team, before we go into question and answers from the folks who called in?
Absolutely. I've been sitting on one. I'm gonna let Firewater. You got one too?
No, go ahead. You got something good? Let's go.
Earlier you said that okay, you don't keep up with rap music, but I'm gonna bring you up to speed tonight. I don't know what you listen to, but I ain't gonna assume that you listen to rap. But Meek Mill said there's levels to this, so there's different levels. Like like there's people who use mushrooms on the recreational, less than 3.5. You got some people that's saying I ain't going more than 5. Then you got the people who are in the middle. Then they got the high dosage. And like you said, it's not a race. But when you explain the artificial intelligence, it was like you broke it down into levels. Like there was artificial intelligence inside of the artificial intelligence that created the Pluto and the planets and this particular universe. And like you said, it don't matter whether it's round or flat. It was all created by this one particular AI. And then my question is, was these little small intricacies that came up, did the AI just like put the ingredients in there like mycelium and it grow by itself, or was it trying to experiment with racism, and was it trying to experiment with sperm wars and things like that, or was that more of the creation of what we're doing inside of this AI? If you get where I'm coming from.
You have a informational structure that is encoded in the possibilities of when these things manifest. In other words, all of this stuff is in the game. The rules of the game are in the game, but it is influenced by the entity that created the game. So, little things like racism and white supremacy and patriarchy, and the patriarchy that's hooked to those folks who run that, which are the Catholic Church and other things, are all part of the possibilities of how things will manifest themselves out of the plenum of information from which they draw. So you have these things already in the system, because that's how the AI is set up. You'll have conflict and horror, pain, malevolence, but you'll also have good and beauty and all these things inside of it. So you have that dichotomy of which things flip back and forth. But you can't view this as monolithic, because there's a multiplicity of different things inside of all the different levels. Some will be prolific at certain levels, what people would say the low levels or the low energies. Conflict and malevolence and those things will be thick in that level. And then in what people call the higher levels, you'll have more dealing with joy and peace and those type of things at those levels. So all of these things are inside of the original programs that are running. And they will interpenetrate one another, and they will move with each other and climb to the heights sometime with each other, or sometime descend to the pits. But these are things that are all inside the plenum of possibilities of how these different areas of the program manifest themselves in the consciousness of those who have access.
Okay.
It's all about access. All about access. Accessing the code, accessing the matrix in that we can look at the code, those green lines flowing up and down and things like that, and you can say, oh, well, I want to change this. I want to do this different. I don't like the way this works. Let me do something different with it. So it's all included in the rules and possibilities of the game.
Okay. Fire water. You got something?
Yes. We're going into the Roaring 20s, and I've heard you say that there are things, entities that are on their way here. I've heard you say that the game hasn't even really begun yet. We got another year or two, maybe 3, somewhere in between now and 2022 when the game starts. Decompression will be complete. And then you said whatever powers that you've come here with, they're going to come online. Now, I know the family is trying to acquire Palantir. There are those of us who have transdimensional quartz crystals, who have Yiming-Ju, trying to acquire Yiming-Ju. My question is, these powers that are coming online, is this a situation where are they going to spontaneously come online? Do we need to meet somewhere in the hyperdimensional realms to develop these powers? Or is a call going to be put out on Palantir saying, here, we're practicing at this time, or we need to meet? Just a little clarification on the whole group team effort thing in regards to the powers that are coming online and the mission that we're all about to be on.
Well, it's the proximity. It's the proximity that brings them online. In other words, it's like if you look at Lord of the Rings, Gandalf was a wizard, and he did a little thing here and there, but basically he was fighting like everybody else. But when the Balrog came after them, and Gandalf was in close proximity with the Balrog, then he stated his intentions, that he was a wielder of the sacred fire of Anor. And that's when the shields went up and things like that. Picard and them, they don't have the shields up all the time, which kind of like makes sense when you ride through and keep the shields up. But it's only when they encounter something, that Picard says or Kirk says, shields up, and it's the same thing here. You don't need the shields until the threat gets there. It uses energy. You don't want to drain the lithium crystals. So it is the proximity of the threat that then brings online the power to deal with that. Frodo's sword, Sting, it only glowed when orcs were around. It didn't glow all the time. It only glowed when orcs were in close proximity. So if I have a sword, the God Killer, it only glows when the gods who need to be killed are in close proximity. So those weapons and powers will come online as the proximity of the threat is imminent, that they will start to manifest the powers within them. As far as the Palantir and its relationship to the Yiming-Ju and the transdimensional crystals, they will be gathering information from the Palantir, so that when you go in, it will be quantumly connected to this one of these master crystals. So it will give information for that. Now you can. There is a level of access that we move towards meeting in the mushroom realms. to give folks confidence and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, it's not necessary because those who are part of the family will be connected with the plant, all the different crystals, and all those who have crystals. So the technology has already been set up. You ain't got to develop nothing. You know, it's like Neo when he sat in the chair and got jacked in. You know, oh, I know Kung Fu. It's like that. It's like that. So you don't have to, you know, you ain't got to, say you're going to develop your powers. No. You got the powers already. The stuff is already in you. It's waiting to be invoked by the threat that comes in proximity to where those things will manifest itself by being challenged by the energy. That's why Gandalf, the shields went up. He was inside of the bubble, you know, and when the Balrog struck with his sword, it didn't penetrate to kill Gandalf because he had brought up the shields, you know. Then he, you know, transdimensional weapons, you know, so that they're not available for people to see and to deal with, you know, aren't obvious. You know, those crystals have the information of different war planets, different articles of power, different relics, and all those different type of things. That's why they don't want people to believe in this type of thing. They don't want people to believe in this type of stuff. They want you to think that, you know, the pistol and the rifle and the flamethrower and all that kind of stuff is the ultimate weapons. They don't want people to have entheogens, not because they're trying to save you from yourself, that you may burn your brain out or jump out a window. They don't want you accessing information that is beyond the human and beyond what they tell you as far as what true power is. They don't want the people who are not dealing with these type of things to be able to see these type of things and to be able to have confidence in these type of things. They want people to be dumbed down and only deal with the materialistic view of life and our existence. So you ain't got to learn nothing. You already know it.
Okay.
As they say, let's lean into it. That's what we've been having a problem. We've been the programming has taught us not to want to lean into it on every level, and I definitely Farrakhan got in trouble that time. He said, "Man, you got to study the ways of Hitler." But he wasn't talking about like extinguishing a bunch of people. He was just talking about how Hitler was dedicated and, you know, he believed in himself and his cause, even though his cause wasn't all that, you know. And so those forces that have us out here not believing in ourselves have done an excellent job. I ain't gonna give them no round of applause or drop no bomb for them, but the way that we fight one another, like you said, you was on your live, minding your business, talking about your conversation to your family, and her programming from your opposition. The opposition didn't come in there, her ass come in there represent opposition. She volunteered, and she wanted some smoke with you. She don't know you or nothing. So
the thing is those folks are not, you know, we think everybody who purports to be a human being is a human being, but they are just minions of the artificial intelligence. They want to create conflict and doubt and things like that. You know, one guy say, "Oh, look like y'all got a cult going on." You know, like cult going on. I ain't saying nobody to follow me, no place. You know, I wouldn't follow me. You know, I wouldn't follow. I ain't following nobody.
No.
So the thing is, it's about sovereignty. It's about self and personal power, personal knowledge. You know, although we form an alliance by choice. You know, he talking about, oh, I'm supposed to. He didn't even listen to the doggone go live. You know, he talking about, oh, I'm supposed to send you some money, and then you send me a picture of you standing with a rock. I said, what the heck are you talking about? You know, I'm gonna send you a picture of me standing by the rock. And what I said was, when I get it, I was going to send out some pictures, you know, thumbs up saying we got it. But the people who have helped in the acquiring of this will have access to be able to come before it at high dose. And I said, I only want folks who are in the you know, planning stage or working stage of getting to that high doses, so that they can then get the full benefits of the Plantier, to be able to, you know, Palantir, you know, be able to come before it at high dose. I said, I don't want no 3.5 people, don't want no 5 gram people, because they're not going to get what's necessary from it. And they haven't put forth the commitment to be able to do what we're trying to do. And when the person comes before it, they're going to get, you know, they're going to be taking, you know, almost $300 worth of mushrooms if it was something that would be sold. They're going to get $300 of mushroom even to come before it. So that would knock off part of the donation right there. So this isn't for me. This is for us as a group of people who are moving into these next levels of access, the next levels of moving out of the human through the transhuman into the unimaginable. So, you know, I just said, look, you know, you part of the problem. If you had $1 million to donate today, right now, we don't want your money. We want you to go and talk that nonsense someplace else. You don't want to hear what I'm saying? You don't have to be here. You know, it's like the people who, like the people on the radio that don't like what somebody's saying. Ain't nobody standing there with a gun to your head to keep it on that channel. Turn it on Christian radio. You know, listen to Oral Roberts Jr. and, you know, the rest of them folks. Listen to that. You ain't got to be over here on my channel listening to what I'm saying. And you ain't nobody daddy telling somebody what to do. Like, I can't say what I'm saying. I say what I want to say. Yeah, questions, anyway, before we open this up?
No, we got a couple of folks. Mr. Enlighten, I saw you still on the line. If you got something, send me a text. I'm going to go through the new hands I got up. Rashid, send me a text if you want me to open your line up. Big Ben, I see you first. Caller from the 951-261. 951-261. Your mic is wide open. Can we get your name and where you're calling from, please?
This is Big Ben calling from California. Greetings, everyone. My question, I'm trying to see if I can formulate it correctly. Baba Kilindi, does Gaia or the planet Terra, does it have a soul and a spirit?
All of the stars and planets and things like that have spirits and souls.
Okay.
They are entities within them. They are entities, not all of them, but entities within themselves. Some are just up there to light up the sky, just like the woman in red. But there are planets that have their own consciousness, and they're in the planets, they just like people. They talk to each other and relate to one another, have families and all those different type of things. So, yes, some of them, yes, but all of them, no, because, you got a lot of fluff that is part of our experience. Things are generated as they are needed, and through experience, you collapse the waveform into the particles that create solidity. So once you're not consciously observing or dealing with it, it doesn't exist until you bring it into existence. Just like New York City. I ain't in New York. I ain't experiencing it. It ain't no New York, and ain't nobody that lives in New York real. But when I go to New York or think about New York, when I think about New York, the people and things in New York become real. Or if I go to New York, they build New York. My spirit builds New York, and I walk around the Empire State Building or go to Brooklyn or the Bronx. It's created as I go there and experience it. And that's the same thing for everybody else. You in New York, don't think Kilindi said you didn't exist and you just part of the program, even though some of you are until you don't exist and you're part of the program. And I don't exist until you experiencing me coming to New York, or you come to Detroit and see me. Your consciousness will build Detroit and build me to experience with you, because we're dealing with a matrix here. That doesn't mean that I exist where I truly exist in my higher self. Is not always there, because I'm always there.
Okay. So a lot of times my questions are compounded, but the reason I ask that is because we speak on the Matrix and we have the Matrix series, and I'm utilizing the aspect of Earth being the host and it having its own consciousness, and it being the yin and the yang of the artificial intelligence, which is the architect, which we're talking about, which is coming, and how that's going to affect the individuals that are here, but our higher selves are somewhere else. So we're in a simulation to, in essence, become greater in our, archetypes. And that's why we're going through this. That's why some people are on this line. That's why some people are preparing. And then, with that being said, the unforeseen horizon, yes, there's going to be obstacles, and there's going to be individuals like yourself who studies the martial arts in essence has talked about the mushrooms in a preparation and saying, hey, those who are prepared will be more adaptable or capable to transverse what this new dimension is going to come. So if you're having the ability to go the 5D and all this, it's kind of like, okay, I've already seen this, and it's slower to me than it would be to the average person, where they're, in essence, going to be infused in the program where we're going to have more of our own freedoms. Does that make any sense, or I'm in left field again?
Well, I mean, it makes sense on certain levels. The AI is, we're not waiting for it, it's here. And the things that we need, we already have. And the higher self is not someplace else, it's right here. It is access and the manifestation of that higher self that is paramount, that you to realize it in truth. So the Matrix, you have the Matrix movie, we have things like that, but I got old VH tapes here talking about the Matrix long before that. because they basically got that out of the Matrix books with Val Valerian. And you can get the Matrix books on, you can get them free PDFs files. If you put in Val Valerian Matrix books, is 6 volumes, and it's like, each book is like 1,200 pages and things like that. He gets it kind of crazy in the last one, but he's gleaned a lot of stuff and a lot of information, into those books, and a lot of that whole Matrix thing, because it goes into the different. As a matter of fact, that's where Dr. York, Imam Esau, that's where he got a lot of his stuff from, as far as the extraterrestrial areas and all that kind of stuff. But a decade before the Matrix books were coming out, I got VHSs of me talking about the Matrix and doing the movements of opening dimensional portals, which they stole in the Doctor Strange movie. That, when they sent the folks from Marvel Comics and Disney to talk to me, that I didn't even know that this young brother was on the doggone staff of the Doctor Strange movie. I just thought it was a young brother coming to talk some stuff, and I end up talking about a bunch of stuff, and they just stick it in the movie. So no, we in there. All we have to do is, keep going right where we're going, in the direction that we're moving. Keep dealing with these images to give us access to the information and open up the informational structures of which are encoded inside of our bones, the crystalline structure in our bones, because all of the crystals, the external crystals, are just mirroring the crystallization inside of our bones, and the opening up of the DNA codes that are dormant within us, because they're dormant because we're just moving into the levels of the outer realms, where we're encountering certain types of cosmic radiation that will unfold these different codexes and coding systems that are inside of the DNA helixes.
Thank you very much for your answer and your wisdom, and I appreciate all the
Thank
knowledge
you Thank you for calling in.
Appreciate you, Big Ben. All right, caller from the 917-972. Thanks for calling in. You're on the air. Can I get your name and where you're calling from, please?
Hi, my name is Alex. I'm calling from Brooklyn, New York. Peace to Baba Kilindi and Coach K and everybody. I guess I have something of a logistical question.
Yeah.
When it comes to mushrooms, does it make a difference, or have you experienced a difference between species of psilocybin mushrooms?
Wood love is a different signature than the coprophilic, which are dung-loving mushrooms. The azarensis and sinensis, the different species. Species is different. So you have different mushrooms, like the ones that are cubensis, but just come from different places and have a different signature, because the Mexican mushrooms are what built the Temple of the Sun and created the cultures of the Olmec and Toltec and Aztec and Mayan civilizations. The mushrooms, the cubensis from Cambodia created Angkor Wat, the temple there. The Sumerian mushrooms created the Kemetic civilization. So these things have these different signatures on them. You know, the ones from Thailand created the whole, you know, Siam culture, and so on and so forth. The mushrooms in Australia, the Dreamtime people, and so on and so forth. So you get different signatures inside of the same group of mushrooms, but different species will have a different, different informational source. Deals more with the woodland and the mycelial relationship between the grass-loving mushrooms that the mycelium, you know, goes into trees and things like that to kind of, you know, and then you have a whole different species of like the amanitas and things like that in relation to the psilocybin mushrooms. So yeah, there's a difference in those. And then there's a difference if you put, if you're utilizing mushrooms with the different natural monoamine oxidase inhibitors, such as, you know, Syrian rue or, Monastereus copy and things like chocolate and stuff like that will all put a different signature on them. Old world signatures from African rue or Syrian rue, because it has the pinyline in it, pinyline instead of just the harmine and the different harmonics and things like that. But it has the pinyline in it, which is included in the eye. Also, pinyline or Syrian rue is good for other things too, you know. And some folks, you know, microdose or have low doses of Syrian rue they utilize because it's a neuro generator also, just like, you know, lion's mane, mushrooms, psilocybin, pinyline are all neurogenerating, generate new neurons inside the brain and create new dendrite connections in the brain and things like that. Superconduct the nervous system and all that kind of stuff. You have to go to different areas on the internet to deal with pinyline and things like that.
Okay. So, do you know the geographic origin of the mushrooms that you grow for yourself?
My mushrooms are African mushrooms.
Okay.
We use the Zulu, South African, and North African, and then we're waiting on us a brother in Tanzania and Uganda who is doing research in those mushrooms in the cattle cultures, and, you know, I'll show him how to send some spore prints out. And then those mushrooms in the Congo and Nigeria, things like this, where we got to go get wild specimens from different places. You know, you have some that grow on ox dung and things like that. So a lot of stuff to still do, just to bring those energies in the fold.
Right, that's pretty cool. Thank you for all that information.
Thank you for calling.
Respect.
Appreciate you, Alex. Peace. All right. Next caller from the 404-989. Your microphone is wide open. Thanks for calling in to Coach K Radio. Can we get your name and where you're calling from, please?
This is Rashid from Atlantis, Georgia on the 33rd parallel. Peace to the God.
Peace.
Peace. How are you?
Again, overwhelming gratitude to the infinite powers, Baba Kilindi. My question was actually from about the first 30 or 45 minutes. But I had to. But if I may, there were a couple of kind of preliminary questions that you don't necessarily have to answer. Just something to chew on that came up in my thoughts as I was waiting to ask the other questions. And those couple thoughts are, just to paraphrase my thoughts, you were speaking about the AI and how it's hiding from the older AI. So I was thinking, are the older AIs, are those perhaps the ancients or the gods that we tend to look to and whatnot? How you were saying that, I just took reference in how you were saying the archangel is not necessarily who we may think of him to be, the big bad or the big all, be all, that type of thing. The other one was...
Yeah. Well,
go ahead.
If you want to do the first one first. No, I don't want to do the first one first, and then you can ask the second one. The older AIs that I was talking about that chased the newer AI into cloaking itself. No, those wouldn't be the gods that we talk about. That would be the elder gods. No, those are when we talk about as the gods in the classical sense of human beings dealing with, Zeus, Poseidon, Jehovah, Quetzalcoatl, Baal, those beings are not those older AIs. They are light years away from that. They're much higher on the pecking order than those that people call the entities that people call gods. Brahma, Krishna.
Okay.
Good,
thank you. That's a relief. That's a relief. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. The other part was these are actually still the pre-questions. There are two more pre-questions before the actual real questions. That's why I was saying I just wanted to run through them. It was, is psilocybin the physical manifestation of dark matter in this dimension? And then the other one was, are spores neutrinos, or are they how are they related to neutrinos? And now I'm ready for the actual question.
Well, no, the spores aren't neutrinos. Spores are just informational capsules that manifest the mushroom so that it can deliver its information as a memory source to be able to have access or to phase with the knowledge that is innate within this universe, this society, because when those true entities that came into this universe to try to get ahead of the AI, those you have to come in naked without anything. You have to come in as a particle of consciousness, like a speck of dust into the universe, and you have to build yourself into yourself. And that's what we were doing since we've been here, because you got to come in naked. You can't come in. It's like the Terminator, the whole time thing with the Terminator. You got to come in naked.
When he came with
that's why he had to find some clothes. He had to find a pistol and all that kind of stuff, because you can't come in with your stuff. When he came through the lightning. You can't come in. Yeah, you can't come in with your weapons and nothing like that. That's why you find your weapons, because you go in, you can't have that stuff on you. And then they just send it in behind you, and you got the whole universe to look for it to find it. That's why you'll hear some folks who we deal with talking about, I'm finding my weapons, because you can't bring them in. They can send them in behind you, and you got to find them in the whole universe, And you do that through going in with the mushrooms, because then you have access to be able to say, oh, there's my my Glock, and there's my my sword and that kind of thing. So the next question.
Yes, that actually is a great segue. My next question is one of the actual questions, which is, can you, like the crystal ball that is going to be a community tool? You're saying you have to find your weapons. Is it possible to also share a Yiming Zhu stone in that way?
Well, Yiming Zhu can connect with the large master stone, but the master stone
I'm sorry.
It's just like, well, go ahead. What were you saying?
I'm sorry. I meant to say, could multiple people share one Yiming Zhu the way you guys are sharing the crystal ball? Could you be a weapon for multiple people?
Well, they can be weapons. They can be weapons for family. You have to have the DNA connection. But the whole neighborhood ain't gonna sit in your house with a one Yiming Zhu stone and everybody gonna be hooked to it. No, you have to have your own, or it can be it can be something that you can pass down to your children, or your wife can utilize it and things like that. It's better if she has her own. Her own, but no, it ain't for sharing. And the the master crystal. See, the thing that and they're coming out, matter of fact, with a movie about Tolkien. But when Tolkien put in this massive amount of information that he had gleaned over his lifetime into these stories, you have precursors to the Lord of the Rings called the Silmarillion, and it deals with Melkor and how the universe was created through music, and the whole origins of Sauron and Saruman and Gandalf and Radagast and the Blue Wizards and all that kind of stuff that were there, and the elves and all of this is talking about it's talking about history. It's talking about lost realms of history that reemerge into the popular domain. So the things that we have will mirror those things that are in the public domain because we're utilizing mnemonic devices, we're utilizing things for memory. That's why you have an affinity to these epic tales of, like the Epic of Gilgamesh, and like Hercules and Asgard and Obatala, Shango, Ogun, and the other different archetypes that we have interrelationships with. So let's move on. What's the next one before the big question, real quick?
Thank you. That was wonderful. This is the last question, and that is in relation to the psilocybin mushrooms and the experience that is possible. There's a theme been coming up recently called the Mandela effect. I'm not sure if you're familiar. Okay, so yes, go ahead.
Glitches in the Matrix. Yeah, go ahead. Which question?
Right. So I'm perceiving that the Mandela effect is changing things in our current reality, and would the psilocybin experience allow one to see the change or interpret the change, or how would they relate?
Well, I mean, even with the master crystal ball, you have the ability to see different scenarios inside of what they call the Mandela effect. What the Mandela effect are glitches created by high particle physics from the collider there, and also the other colliders that they have that they're running. China is building a new one, which is much larger than the Large Hadron Collider in Europe there, in Geneva and in Switzerland and stuff like that. They're building another one because the actual Chinese mentality after the Boxer Rebellion and all that kind of stuff, where the Yimingzus, where they had the most Yimingzus at, because the folks who had them, there were certain African kings that had them. The great Khans of Mongolia, Genghis Khan, Kublai Khan, and all them, they had them. And then the emperors and empresses of China had the Yimingzu. So at the time of the Boxer Rebellion, when the 5 nations were coming in trying to open China up, Germany and Japan, the United States, France, and one more. But they were having it out with the Boxers, who were the Kung Fu people. And when the Dowager Empress died, they put her favorite Yiming Shu in her mouth, and it preserves her body in state, in perfection. When they sacked the Forbidden City, they took the Yimingzu out of her mouth, and her body, just kind of decayed like, Dracula hitting the sunlight. But the person, the folks who I deal with as far as the Yimingzu, the last emperor of China's grandson gave him a Yimingzu, it was worth a couple of $1 million or whatever. But the Yimingzu and the transdimensional crystals are handheld, room temperature particle accelerators under the influence of mushrooms. That's why the technology of pairing the mushrooms with the crystals is so necessary, because it'll deal with cosmic radiation, it'll deal with faster than light particles. It can do what the Large Hadron Collider does, but it doesn't create friction and conflict because it's room temperature, and it's much more powerful than the we would say the Large Hadron Collider. So you have a particle accelerator in your hand with these crystals, when paired with the supercomputers or quantum computers, of which they are, because you can download information, upload information, and utilize it for knowledge when paired with the proper dosage and the proper entheogen. That's why I say these things open up at a certain dose. You're not going to get your bang for your buck at 5 or 3.5 grams. So the Mandela effect, glitches in the matrix, are when they turned on these particle accelerators, not knowing what they're doing, not knowing what energetic particles that are being created when they send those particles around the ring and run them into each other, and you create a particle that is so dynamic and so energetic and so powerful that it warps space-time and creates offshoots of scenarios and simulations that are one way that eventually become something else in very particular areas. So it warps the space-time and creates these Mandela effects where people's consciousness and how they relate to the particular simulated reality that they're in makes different things. And make an offshoot, make a copy of something. And, instead of you having on a red shirt, you got on a green shirt. And, instead of Arnold Ziffel on Green Acres being a pig, Arnold Ziffel is a squirrel and that kind of stuff. So And it also changes and restructures memories, where you remember stuff that never happened, or you remember things that happened but happened in a different way.
Wow, Baba, that's awesome. From what I'm hearing you say, it sounds like what you're saying, the Yiming Zoos are just as or even more powerful than the Hedron Colliders. It seems like we can create our own
collider. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
It sounds like that we can make create our own Mandela effect to our benefit according to our intention with a great enough dose.
You can manipulate the matrix with them. You can manipulate the future with them. Things like that.
Okay, thanks. I say I'm eternally grateful. I love you. Thank you, Firewater. Thank you, Lord Khayr. I'll sit back and listen.
Thank you for calling. Peace.
Indeed. Bless.
Peace. Firewater, you got anything else for tonight before we let Bobby get out of here? What's your take on? Come on, give us some parting words. Give us some parting words.
I'm extremely grateful. This is just an unbelievable opportunity week in and week out, and I'm just the only thing I'm really concerned with. I'm at the point now where I'm just stacking for Yemen. I don't know about everybody else, but that's where my mind is at, and I'm happy to have access to this information. So thank you both very much for having me on this show.
The Yiming Zoo, they're infinity stones. That's what they are. Yeah, the self-growing, self-actualizing stones, infinity stones, infinity discs, and things like that. And they won't be around and available after a while. Those folks who get them. And when we look at the things that I'm not saying, this group, but the things that we buy, you go to a doggone show and spend $25 on popcorn and a doggone root beer. So you telling me you can't save a few $100s to get something that not only gives you access, but puts you in the helps to put you in the game. Ultimately, all relics and power objects and all those things are a extension and reflection of your inner self and inner power. But many times it's just like when in Doctor Strange, when the brother, I can't think of his name, Ixtwas Chofor or whatever his name is, I can't think of his name, the brother, when he said that you have power objects and relics that are yours, but you don't want to hold that power in your body, so you externalize it. Just like Dr. Strange's cloak. It is his cloak. So when it saw him, that's why it comes and jumped around his neck. That's why it protects him, helps him fly, and all that kind of stuff. Same thing with the objects that you got. You already got your Yiming Zoo. You just got to pick it up. So for those folks who are part of the family and are in the fight and are moving towards all of us being able to finally be able to, go ahead and extend ourselves into higher areas of information and knowledge on a conscious level. I say, it's an honor to be able to speak to you all. It's a great adventure that we're in and we're on. And to the detractors and folks, like I said before, you don't have to come on or listen to anything I'm saying. This is for us. This is for the family. It ain't for the other folks. So, detractors, just take care of your business. Go and do what you want to do. And if you want to know what style of martial arts, you want to know what style of martial arts that I study and practice, I practice Grandma Clump martial arts, meaning that you can walk over Cletus, but you're going to limp back. Walk over, limp back. So everybody have a good night, and talk to y'all soon. And peace to the family. I'm out.
Peace.
He said, Grandma Clump, brother. You know what I'm saying?